So Kim, what's on your radar?
Well, Rhode Island State Senator Tiara Mack made this video over the holiday weekend.
Vote Senator Mack.
Now, we had to blur it out because YouTube doesn't allow you to see bums shaking in a thong bikini because there might be children watching or something, but you can imagine it. So she says at the end of that video, vote Senator Mack. So clearly this is not an official campaign video, but it was posted on our TikTok account under the handle Mack District 6. So it wasn't exactly a personal account she was posting from. Now, District 6 is the district Senator Mack represents inside of Rhode Island. Now, before we talk more about the twerking video, I want to show you this actual campaign video from Senator Mack so you get a sense of who she is outside of this controversy.
Growing up, I didn't see many people who looked like me in politics. I didn't know that people with backgrounds like mine who shared the same stories as my family and community could have a seat at a state house table. Last year, working on the Reproductive Privacy Act, out of hundreds of people in the crowds, I could name the 5 people who looked like me. Growing up in a low-income community, I remember watching my mom make the decision between paying for rent or paying for groceries, facing an eviction notice or keeping the lights on. I never knew that I could have a voice in the decisions that shaped my community. Decisions that shaped the fight for quality education, clean air, food, and healthy communities. It was through activism and fighting for these issues that I realized I could have a hand in shaping the way that our communities looked. I decided to run for Senate because I was unwilling to wait for the world to change around me. I was unwilling to wait for the work of activism to finally break through the walls of the State House. I am running because I want there to be someone like me in office. I am running because I want to prove that we can not only have a seat at the table, but we can bring the table back to where it belongs, our house. I want to use my story and my experience to dare to dream and dare to hope. Let's put that hope into action. Vote for me, Tiara Mack, State Senate District 6.
Okay, so she seems like a fairly normal person there, right? So let's go back to the twerking. Now, there are 2 big conversations going on surrounding this video. The first being about whether or not this type of video is appropriate for a state senator. Is it racist for people to be upset? Should people just loosen up and realize twerking is this new generation's political equivalent to having a beer at a bar with a politician? And the second conversation is about the sexual explicitness of the video and the rising concern parents are having about how sex is taught to our kids. So let's start with that one. Now, people are pointing at the sexually explicit nature of the video and then saying, here's the Rhode Island Senator, Tiara Mack, who sponsored the sexual pleasure education bill. Senator Mack even tweeted about it saying, really excited for the House sex ed bill hearing later today. Teaching comprehensive, queer-inclusive, pleasure-based sex ed was a highlight of my time teaching. So people are seeing this and thinking the left really has gone too far with how sexuality, and gender are being taught to our kids. So what is this bill? Well, it's a bill regarding how sex ed is taught in schools. It's for grades 6 through 12 and starts off by saying abstinence should be taught as the preferred method of birth control and prevention of STDs. Then it goes on to say that each year the curriculum should include age and developmentally appropriate material on topics such as consent, prevention of pregnancy, STDs, sexual violence, and that each course should be appropriate for all races, genders, sexual orientations, ethnic and cultural backgrounds. And then it says, shall affirmatively recognize pleasure-based sexual relations, different sexual orientations, and be inclusive of same-sex relationships. Now, people have zeroed in on the teaching of pleasure-based sexual relations. They're looking at that video of her half-naked twerking upside down, then calling for votes and thinking, what the heck? So what exactly is teaching pleasure-based sexual relations? Well, Planned Parenthood has an article about it on their website, and I'm just going to read this so that you all know what it is. Now, it says this. There is a big taboo around pleasure, particularly sexual pleasure. People worry that teaching children how to seek pleasure in their relationships will encourage them to have unprotected sex before they're ready. That can seem scary as a parent or educator. Thankfully, there's a lot of evidence showing the positives of including pleasure in sexuality education. Not only are students who are given comprehensive sex education choosing to have sex at a later age, but they're also more likely to use birth control when they do have sex. So what is pleasure-based sex education? When comprehensive sex education is pleasure-based, it emphasizes that sexual activity should be pleasure-focused. It normalizes the idea of giving and receiving pleasure, not just in sexual activity, but in relationships as a whole. When sex education is pleasure-based, students develop healthier relationships both with themselves and their partner, increasing their overall life satisfaction and happiness. The truth is, children and teens are already talking about children and teens are already talking in messages about sex all the time, whether they know it or not. Advertisements, TV shows, and peers are constantly bombarding kids with information on sexuality. If they're getting messages on pleasure and sexuality anyway, the responsible thing to do is ensure they have the best chance at a happy and healthy sex life. Pleasure is inherently about feeling happy and fulfilled. So, okay, that's what that's about. Now, let's talk about the other controversial aspect to this half-naked twerking video. That is that it's inappropriate and unprofessional behavior for someone like a senator. Her supporters are saying this is just a futile attempt at a smear job. For example, Amanda Littman, the co-founder of Run for Something, tweeted, quote, "The trolls aren't coming for Run for Something candidate Mack District 6 because of a video. They're coming for her because she's a young, queer, Black leader and a fierce champion for repo rights. We've got her back. Chip in to her re-election now." Now, others are saying this has nothing to do with being queer or Black. After all, numerous white law enforcement officers have been suspended for posting TikTok videos in uniform for similar reasons. The songs they used were too sexually explicit, or the things they were doing were viewed as negatively impacting the public perception of the agency. So Tiara Mack has, of course, responded to all of this attention. She's tweeted, "Damn, twerking upside down really makes the conservatives' unhinged internet accounts pop off on a Monday." She went on to say, "So can the media also cover when I won a national championship in May and named MVP of the match? Can the media also cover the 10+ bills I sponsored that the Rhode Island Senate never scheduled for a hearing? Can the media cover any policy wins had by the youngest Black state senator in Rhode Island? As a Black queer woman, you all should know the answer is no. Let them carry on their narrative. Me, I'm going to be joyful, free, and unbothered." So she's been getting a lot of backlash on this, and I've actually noticed even a lot in the Black community are coming out against her. I've noticed this on YouTube. The few that I was able to search that did reviews of her twerking, a couple of those channels were saying that Black women in particular are extremely hypersexualized, and that this only contributes to that, that she doesn't need to be shaking her rear end in front of a camera for votes, that is something that some would like to see change. I would like to know, what is your opinion on this?
I would like to be spared of the respectability politics. First of all, there are lots of ways that Black people and Black women, yes, we are hypersexualized, we are stereotyped. A lot of different things that are unfair happen to us. It does not mean that we should then adjust our actions and our life in order to prevent stereotypes and unfair characterizations that would persist anyway, because the people that are doing it would just do it. So that's the one when I say there. Two, as far as the twerking in the video, personally, it wouldn't persuade or dissuade me either way in terms of I wouldn't watch that video and think, oh, I want to vote for her, and I wouldn't watch that video and think, oh, this person is unqualified or unfit to be a senator. The reality is people are regular people. They twerk, they do things. I am a lawyer. I definitely twerk. I go out, I do all of the things. Doesn't mean anything. I'll still get you out of jail next week. So it has no bearing on that. But I do think for her purposes, very clearly, based on the campaign video we showed, she's very interested in appealing to people who have not seen themselves reflected in politics. Very often, especially with our old standards of professionalism and the times of yesteryear, it's you can't be this way, you can't do this thing, you have to be this professional image, this facade that you're made up to be all the time in order to get credibility. She's clearly speaking to a generation that no longer believes in that and feel very motivated and like candidates and people that they see more authentic and they see themselves in, which is why the video is on TikTok. Obviously, she's appealing to Gen Z, these people that will like that. So I don't have an issue. I just don't have an issue with it. And I do think it's just an unreasonable level of uproar. And I think in general, the kind of uproar we see from Republicans when it comes to stuff like this, when Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion dropped WAP, it's just performance theater. It's insincere. And quite frankly, it doesn't make sense to me on a party who's had so many politicians, including its last president, be accused of sexual assault and all kinds of misconduct. But all of a sudden, a twerk video is too much for you. Like
I couldn't care less less about the video. However, the touting of the sex, the pleasure-based sex training. Look, you read over that, Kim, and some of that instruction for kids sounds fine, probably pretty routine, some knowledge of how reproduction actually works. I don't know that it should really go far with that. I probably wouldn't have a problem with it, but I know a lot of parents are very upset right now about what specifically is being taught in schools, especially relating to topics like sex. And you know what, you work for the taxpayers, not the other way around. You work for the families, you work for the parents. I think it would behoove political representatives to be very, very, very careful about what they are putting into the curriculum that might not, there are some families who they want to be the ones to talk to their kids about this. They might not agree with how, it might not be most teachers, but some more activist educators who are going to go too far or use this as a pretext to talk about something irresponsible. I don't think that's most teachers or most of these educators, but we have seen some examples of that from the Libs of TikTok account, right? So I'm more concerned about the bill than the video. I don't care about the video at all, but there is something, and whether if you don't agree with it, fine. You can teach your kid, pleasure-based whatever. It's your kid, but should it be part of the school, and then all parents, even ones who are not comfortable with it, that has to be the experiment. That is clearly causing a massive blowback to that idea, right? That idea is empowering Republicans everywhere. So this is, free advice for Democrats, like maybe lay off this a little bit. Is this the most important thing, to cram this teaching down sixth graders?
I will just say my add-on, I'm all for a more robust sexual education. I think the abstinence approach and everything that we have very much so contributes to teen pregnancy. The reality, you watch before, you see the things happening. Teenagers have sex. They have sex. Yeah. They're going out there experimenting.
Teen pregnancy is going down, though.
Listen, I'm not speaking as to whether it is, but I think that's also a reflection of our changing times, people being more educated, contraceptive, all these different things are more available, and us changing the culture on the ground. So I will say I will push back against teaching abstinence and these very old school methods that don't do anything but leave people in a bind down the line. But I will say, to be fair, to find a middle ground, I understand why people would want to change sexual education to be more accurate, or especially at an older level, right? If we're talking adults and people and stuff, I think men and boys and stuff are very trained and educated on sex in a way that is not advantageous to the people that they are engaging with in the future. But that's what Robbie, I'm about to get to it.
Okay.
I do think that I don't think you necessarily need to teach sex pleasure education to sixth grade or however. Yeah. I think there should be a line, it sounds like a college curriculum.
Appropriate.
Yeah.
I mean, it says it needs to be age appropriate for each level.
Right.
So, it does.
But we might disagree on what people might disagree. But
I like that. I like adding in that caveat, Kim. Yeah.
I mean, look. Kids are watching much, much worse than what they're ever going to learn in sex ed. And that's where they're really learning about sex. And so, this sort of, this idea of bringing in those conversations inside of the classroom is meant to counter what they're already going to see online that you as a parent may never know that they're actually looking at. Maybe you've blocked it on your internet at home and you think your kid is safe and free, but then they go to school and some other kid shows it to them. Right. So they're going to see images that are very graphic, and I would think even very detrimental to the actual experience between a couple, between two people. Instead, it's very degrading. The experience is not normal and natural for, what should be between a man and a woman, or man and a man, or whoever, right? Between people that are engaging in consensual, right? So that, I think that's what it's meant to do. I mean, I do personally think that the twerking video was totally inappropriate for somebody. I don't think it's professional at all. I do think people need to get a handle on that. I don't think that we should just say, well, anything goes. We're in a new era and anything's professional.
A politician shouldn't twerk? Is it that you've seen the video, or just...
I don't think she should be twerking in a video and then asking for votes after that. If she wants to go dancing at a club, she's 28 years old. There's a time and a place to twerk. Twerking should not be done in a video on an account that says Mack District 6 and then asking for votes after that twerking video. So it's same thing with the cops that were doing stuff in their uniforms and posting it, and then they were suspended, many of them. This was going on because it's that younger generation, the people in their 20s, they're TikToking everything. And so there's been like this concerted effort to sort of crack down on social media posting inside of law enforcement. They're getting it no matter who they are. they're being told, look, you represent, especially when you're wearing a uniform, and in her case, when she's saying Mack District 6, when you're representing people and you shouldn't have a negative, you shouldn't be putting something out there that maybe are going to be upsetting to people. But, look, in the end, people will either vote for her or they won't vote for her. That's the bottom line, and no pun intended. And, I think she might lose a lot of independence over this. People will see that and say, look, I liked you for your policies. I was on board, but this to me is too much. I don't want a society that reels into this thinking that this is normal professional behavior.
It's probably inarguable that it was not a good, tactical, it was not smart tactically.
But that seems ridiculous to me, to like a person's policies, the actual ways in which they're trying to implement your life, a government official, and say, oh, but despite these policies that are you twerking, whoa, this is what you're teaching the public.
I would say the same thing about the police. Probably twerking is the least offensive thing the police. I want to suspend them for violating my rights and harassing people and writing me a speeding ticket the other day.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
66 and a 45.
I feel you, Robbie. I think we're in alignment here.
Ticket. All right, Kim, thank you very much. We'll have more Rising right after this.